Tonight on To the Point.
Hopefully this will be the beginning of the end for high-speed rail.
California's bullet train likely losing funding. Tonight, how state leaders are responding. Plus, legacy solar incentives on the chopping block. How moves in Sacramento could slash benefits and what happens next. A last-minute attempt to stop gas prices from going up again fails. What you can expect to see at the pump this July. And an urgent manhunt underway for a father accused of murdering his 3 young daughters. Why it's sparking new questions about emergency alerts. But first, we start with breaking news just into the newsroom. President Donald Trump just signed and announced a travel ban. The ban set to take effect Monday blocks entry to the U.S. from a dozen countries, including Afghanistan, Iran, Haiti, and Somalia. New restrictions will also be placed on travelers from several other nations, including Cuba, Venezuela, and Sierra Leone. Trump says the move is necessary to protect national security following a report from federal agencies on potential threats from abroad. Thank you so much for joining us on To the Point. I'm Alex Bell. The California high-speed rail project is hitting yet another roadblock. Tonight, the federal government appears closer to cutting billions in funding. In a new Department of Transportation report that's more than 300 pages long, the feds say the project has no viable path forward and believes it's time to pull the plug. ABC 10's Jeannie Nguyen is hearing from both sides of this controversy tonight and explains what today's news means for the future of the rail.
Alex, California voters first approved the rail project back in 2008. The authority that oversees it has been over budget and behind deadline ever since. A testing track is still not complete, and it's not known when people could even buy a ticket to board the future train. But advocates for high-speed rail tell me state lawmakers need to continue to invest in this project that will eventually benefit the state.
Hopefully this will be the beginning of the end for high-speed rail.
California Congressman Kevin Kiley, an open critic of the California high-speed rail, is adamant about cutting federal funding to the project. Months ago, Congressman Kiley introduced a bill to cut funding.
The tax dollars of Americans, and in particular of Californians, can be used where they will actually be needed and where they'll make a difference.
The Department of Transportation's Federal Railroad Administration has now published a report detailing the failures of the project and proposing all federal funding to be stopped. The FRA wants to terminate 2 existing contracts with the High-Speed Rail Authority, citing consistent delays, overspending, and failure to deliver on commitments. To date, the High-Speed Rail Authority says the cost estimate for the Merced to Bakersfield corridor ranges between $34.9 billion to $38.5 billion, a big difference from the initial proposed $45 billion for the entire project from San Francisco to Los Angeles. State lawmakers say federal dollars only make up a small portion of the project's budget, and it relies primarily on state dollars. And advocates for the project believe it is still a good investment.
The leaders of the legislature and the governor need to be very clear that they stand behind this project and that the state is going to push through to get trains running as fast as possible.
The High-Speed Rail Authority has 30 days to propose corrective actions in which the FRA will consider before federal funding is pulled. In a statement to ABC 10, the authority says it strongly disagrees with the FRA's conclusions, believing it to be misguided. The authority adds the governor's proposed budget, if passed, will extend at least $1 billion per year for the next 20 years to complete the project's initial segment.
What happens with steady funding is that then you can start issuing bonds in order to build the critical tunnels that get you to the Bay Area and to the Los Angeles area.
Ultimately, Congressman Kiley believes it's too late for the authority to plead its case.
I do not believe so. The Rail Authority has had 17 years to make the case that it could actually complete this project.
And I asked the High-Speed Rail Authority if it plans on responding to the report. An authority spokesperson tells me it will fully address and correct the record with a formal response, Alex.
Now, Jeannie, let's talk about Senator Dave Cortezi. We know that he has supported the high-speed rail project. He's also the chair of the Senate Transportation Committee. What did he really have to say about the report today?
Well, Alex, I have tried contacting Senator Dave Cortezi's office multiple times over the last few days, but he hasn't made himself available. But he did provide us with a statement today that says, in part, the state could potentially lose $4 billion in federal grants, calling it a politicized move that would ultimately hurt Californians, leading to rising costs for materials and delays across housing and transportation projects. The state senator's full statement can be found on our website at abc10.com, Alex.
Thank you so much, Jeannie. And the state Senate this week just approved a bill that, if passed, would study the potential economic benefits of high-speed rail. SB 545, authored by State Senator Dave Cortezi, would require the state to study the benefits tied to the project and its connecting lines, specifically for things like jobs, businesses, and emissions. Opponents argue it could add $700,000 to the already ballooning cost of the project. The bill heads to the Assembly for a vote. And we do have an in-depth look at the high-speed rail project on our ABC 10 Plus TV streaming app. Our team has been examining this project for quite some time now. So if you want to take a look at it, it is currently on our free ABC 10 Plus streaming app, which is completely free to download straight to your TV. All right, a last-minute attempt to repeal the state's low-carbon fuel standard failed in the state legislature. Critics argue the LCFS could lead to higher gas prices this summer. State Senator Brian Jones authored a bill, SB 2, to immediately halt new amendments to the state's low-carbon fuel standard. Some argue those amendments will lead to a spike in gas prices if they take effect. Today, Senate Democrats blocked the bill from being heard on the Senate floor.
Today, I gave them a perfect example of something that they could have done today that would have repealed that regulation, stopped Gavin Newsom's gas price hike that's going to go into effect on July 1st. And the Democrats in the legislature said no.
California currently has the highest gas prices across the country. Starting on July 1st, the state's excise tax will also increase by 2.25% as part of the state's yearly attempt to adjust for inflation and help pay for the roads. California lawmakers have unanimously passed a bill that would require ignition interlock devices for all DUI offenders, including first-time offenders. The devices prevents a car from starting if alcohol is detected on the driver's breath. Currently, California law does not require devices for first-time offenders. The bill now heads to the Senate for consideration. And a bill to slash rooftop solar incentives is one step closer to becoming a law. AB 942, which was passed by the Assembly, would require new owners of rooftop solar to agree to a new program called the Net Billing Tariff and to get rid of the California Climate Credit through the Cap and Trade program. Now, supporters say it helps offset utility costs, but critics argue it undercuts the incentive to go solar. The bill now heads to the state Senate. And it comes as the California Supreme Court began hearing arguments in a lawsuit challenging a controversial decision by the state's Public Utilities Commission to limit credits for rooftop solar customers. At the center of the case is a policy that slashed credits new solar users receive for sending excess energy back to the grid. That policy, which took effect back in April of 2023, cut credits by up to 80%. While a lower court previously rejected the challenge, the California Supreme Court agreed to hear the case and is now questioning whether that lower court gave too much authority to the CPUC's decision. A proposed California ballot measure is taking aim at insurance denials, and it's now one step closer to a public vote. The initiative would ban insurers from delaying, denying, or even changing treatment if it could seriously harm the patient and put the burden on the insurance companies to prove they followed the law. Insurers who violate the law could face triple penalties and cover attorney costs. State officials say the measure is vague, which could open the door to lawsuits and some major costs, possibly even in the billions. Supporters have 180 days to collect more than 500,000 signatures to make it on the 2026 ballot. We still have a lot more news, including a heartbreaking search underway. A father on the run accused of killing his 3 young daughters. Plus, a new warning about Trump's big, beautiful bill, why officials say it could add nearly $2 trillion to the deficit, and what some senators want changed.
And it was a hot day out there today, made it into the mid-90s, 95 in Sacramento, about 10 degrees warmer than normal. A brief cool down tomorrow before we're right back in the 90s, headed into the weekend. Forecast after the break.
Welcome back in. You're taking a live look over Sacramento. We saw a lot of warm temperatures today, but it was absolutely beautiful outside. Let's get over to meteorologist Brendan Minchef with a look at our forecast for tonight. How are things looking?
Very summer-like, not just today and this evening, but really for the foreseeable future. Made it into the mid-90s today, 95 in Sacramento, 95 Marysville, 93 in Oroville, 93 in Stockton, 91 down in Modesto, 88 Fairfield, 93 in Vacaville, 80s in the foothills. Temperatures 5 to 10 degrees above average across the valley today, plus 5 up in South Lake Tahoe as well. Currently in the mid to upper 80s for most of the valley, some low 90s as well. 87 in Sacramento, 90 Vacaville, 80 in Fairfield, 82 in Elk Grove, 90 in Stockton, 90 in Manteca, 89 Modesto, 93 Colusa, 92 in Oroville, 70s to mid 80s in the foothills, and right near 70 up in the high country. A little breezy as well, especially through the Delta and San Joaquin Valley, 15 to 25 mile per hour sustained winds. Thursday morning, it'll be a mild overnight, mid 50s, right where we've been the last few days, and right near normal for the time of year as well. Warmer tomorrow through the first half of the day, but then we don't get quite as warm by the time we get into the afternoon. So about 80 at lunchtime, 85 degrees by 2 o'clock. And again, warm, or we should say warmer than average at 88 degrees, but not where we were today. Made it to 95 today. I've just got 80s for tomorrow. 88 in Sacramento, 87 in Elk Grove, 83 Vacaville, 80 Fairfield, still some low 90s in the upper valley, low 90s in the San Joaquin Valley, 90 in Stockton, 91 Manteca, 92 in Modesto, 80s in the foothills, 70s in the high country, and like today, we'll be tracking for some Sierra Crest thunderstorms, especially on the eastern slope, crest to eastern slope tomorrow. High pressure just stays right off the coast for the next few days before moving inland over the weekend, and that is going to send temperatures up into the mid-90s by the time we get to Saturday, Sunday, Monday, before temperatures drop once again headed into next week, Alex.
All right, thank you, Brendan. Next, on to the point, a Northern California city is raising its utility rates for the first time in years, what customers can expect and why the city says it's unavoidable. Plus, Sacramento's rail yards projects face pushback, why unions and community leaders say it's a bad deal. A heartbreaking development from Washington state tonight. Authorities are urgently searching for a father they say killed his 3 young daughters during a court-approved visit. And the tragedy is now raising fresh concerns about how and when emergency alerts are triggered to help save children in danger. Zareen Shah has the story for us tonight.
A small town in Washington state in mourning and on alert. State law enforcement, the FBI, and Homeland Security officials urgently searching for a father who they believe killed his 3 young daughters during a court-approved visit. Authorities say 32-year-old Travis Decker, who has military training and might be on foot and armed, is a threat to the community.
It could be anywhere, and we're taking that into consideration. Thanks to the U.S. Marshal's Office that have come in and brought additional resources. Again, the Federal Bureau of Investigations, Homeland Security Investigations. We are searching anywhere and everywhere for him.
Decker is now wanted for 3 counts of first-degree murder for the deaths of his daughters. The bodies of 5-year-old Olivia, 8-year-old Evelyn, and 9-year-old Peyton were found Monday in a wooded area near a campground. All 3 believed to have been suffocated by their father, who was with them on a scheduled visitation approved by the court. Decker's truck found nearby, but he was gone. When the girls did not come home when they were supposed to Friday, their mom contacted police, but investigators say it did not meet the legal bar for an Amber Alert. The criteria for an Amber Alert includes reasonable belief by law enforcement that an abduction has occurred and fear that the child is in imminent danger of bodily injury or death.
Just because a parent with custodial privileges is late bringing a child back does not mean there's been an abduction. And so there was not specific evidence of an abduction.
Instead, the police department issued what's called an endangered missing persons alert, a lower-level alert that does not automatically ping mobile phones.
Travis, if you're listening, this is your opportunity to turn yourself in. Do the right thing, do what you need to do, and take accountability for your actions.
Now, police say Decker had been living out of his truck and has a history of mental health issues. Court records show he was diagnosed with borderline personality disorder, but did not get treatment. A man is in custody tonight in connection with last month's car bombing outside a fertility clinic in Palm Springs. Federal officials identified him as 32-year-old Daniel Park from Kent, Washington. Authorities say Park supplied the bomber Guy Edward Bartkiss with ammonium nitrate used in the attack. Investigators also allege Park traveled to California months earlier to help test the materials in Bartkiss's garage. Bartkiss was killed in the explosion. All right, getting into your price points tonight. For the first time in more than a decade, Rio Vista residents will see higher water and sewer bills. The city council approved 5 years of rate hikes that are set to begin July 1st. Customers in neighborhoods served by the Northwest Wastewater Treatment Plant face the largest jump, which is a 55% increase in the first year, followed by a 35% hike in year 2 and 5% increases each of the next 3 years. Those connected to the Older Beach Wastewater Treatment Plant will see a 20% hike in year 1, 15% in year 2, then 5% annually through 5 years. City leaders say the hikes are necessary to catch up on infrastructure repairs and prevent system failures. Happening now in Sacramento, SMUD is holding a public hearing about 2 proposed rate hikes. The company is proposing a 3% increase in 2026 and another 3% increase in 2027. The utility company says the increases are needed to cover wildfire prevention, clean energy costs, and infrastructure upgrades. Tonight, community members and unions are speaking out as Sacramento leaders prepare to consider funding for the downtown rail yards project. At a press conference today, speakers expressed concerns about a proposed $92 million plan. They say it's being pitched as the final step to secure a soccer stadium for Republic FC. But the deal is much bigger, financing the entire rail yards redevelopment. Now, critics also argue it doesn't do enough to address affordable housing needs.
6% affordable housing at the rail yards is way too little. For a development that will transform Sacramento with up to 10,000 housing units, much more of it should be affordable for working people like me.
Mayor Kevin McCarty has previously told ABC 10 that the stadium will be privately funded and won't affect Sacramento's projected $44 million budget deficit. City Council is set to vote on the rail yards deal and the 2024-2025 budget on June 10th, right around the corner. All right, tonight, new estimates from the Congressional Budget Office show President Donald Trump's One Big Beautiful Bill is expected to add nearly $2.5 trillion to the federal deficit. It comes as Senate Republicans are calling for steeper cuts. Here's Perry Russum with the latest details for us tonight.
Republican infighting on President Trump's One Big Beautiful Bill boiling over. House Speaker Mike Johnson today tamping down Elon Musk's comments, calling the bill a disgusting abomination.
It surprised me, frankly, and I don't take it personal. We don't take it personal. Policy differences are not personal. I think he's flat wrong. I think he's way off on this.
It comes as the nonpartisan Congressional Budget Office today says the bill will cut taxes by $3.7 trillion and at the same time add $2.4 trillion to the deficit over the next 10 years. Musk posting on X today reacting to the increased deficit, saying this is debt slavery for the American people. Republican senators, including Ron Johnson and Rand Paul, are calling for changes to the bill, including steeper cuts to federal spending.
I agree with Ron Johnson and other colleagues who have rightfully said that we have to bend the curve on spending.
Republican Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene now warning about a section in the bill she voted for on artificial intelligence. She's calling it a violation of states' rights.
This clause would take away state rights to make laws or regulate AI for 10 years. I think federalism is something that we must always protect.
Greene admitting she did not know that section was in the bill, now calling for it to be stripped out.
Here's a lesson for us all. No matter what political party holds office and is in charge, we should all watch carefully the bills that we pass.
Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer today.
This bill is just tax breaks for the ultra-wealthy, paid for by gutting health care for up to 16 million Americans.
Late today, Elon Musk making his thoughts clear on the bill, telling Americans to call their members of Congress to kill the bill. Musk says bankrupting America is not okay. Perry Russum, ABC News, Washington.
Before we go, a special day for a local military family. The widow of a U.S. Army veteran in Rancho Cordova just received a new roof thanks to Rebuilding Together Sacramento. It's part of a nationwide effort to honor veterans and their families. Since 2016, the program has provided nearly 700 roofs to military homes. Thank you so much for joining us. I'll see you tomorrow.